My name is Vera Rostova. I am 29 years old and I died last year. Technically, it was the doctors who told my parents that I would not survive the night. Their answer: she is not our real daughter, we owe her nothing. Then they left me to die alone. A week later, they showed up at my grandmother's house, ready to claim the inheritance she had left me. But my bed was empty. There was only a letter waiting for them. And when they read it, their lives fell apart. I grew up in the academic city of Novosibirsk, in a spacious house with a well-kept garden that looked like it came straight out of a postcard. From the outside, we were the epitome of a perfect family: father, mother, 2 daughters. My childhood photos show birthdays with identical decorations, Christmas mornings with mountains of presents, family trips to Altai. But photos can lie. My first memory of being different is when I was 5 years old. My sister Larissa knocked over a vase while running around the living room. When my mother came running, I was already picking up the pieces. "What happened here?" she demanded. I said it automatically, without even thinking. Later, I overheard my mother talking on the phone. "Vera is always so eager to please everyone. Not like Larissa. Larissa has character." Character. This is the word parents used to justify Larissa's hysterics in stores. Her refusal to eat vegetables. Her audacity. When I did my homework without being reminded, it was called efficiency. When Larissa finally did it, she was a genius. At first, the differences were barely noticeable. Larissa got the bigger bedroom. Larissa chose the restaurant for the family dinner. Larissa's drawings covered the refrigerator, while mine were neatly tucked away in a drawer. "Your sister needs more support," my father explained when I asked why my A's weren't as worthy of celebration as Larissa's C-. "You're just naturally good at studying." I was 13 when I finally found out why. It was well past midnight, and I got up to get a drink of water. My parents were arguing in the kitchen, their voices carried upstairs. "You've always been kind to Larissa," her mother hissed, as if trying to make amends for the fact that the faith is not yours. "It's not yours either," Margarita's father snapped. "We agreed when we took her in that we would never treat her any differently." The glass slipped from my hand and shattered on the parquet floor. The argument stopped. I rushed back to my room, my heart pounding, and pretended to be asleep when my mother came in to check on me, receptionist. That word explained everything and nothing at the same time. Why do I have dark hair when everyone else is blonde? Why do I have green eyes when they all have blue? Why, no matter how hard I tried, did I never really belong? The next morning at breakfast, I waited for them to tell me, to explain, to reassure me that they loved me just as much. They didn't, so I did. "I heard you last night," I said. My voice was quiet but firm. "I know I'm adopted." The newspaper in his father's hands sagged slightly. His mother froze, pouring coffee. Then she smiled with that strained smile that never reached her eyes. "Don't be silly, Vera. You must have dreamed it." And that's it. No confirmation or denial that would resemble the truth. Just gaslighting and breakfast as usual. That day I learned that in our house appearances were more important than truth. After that, I threw myself into the pursuit of perfection. If I couldn't be loved for who I was, maybe I would be appreciated for what I had achieved. I graduated from school with a gold medal, received a grant to study at NSU, and founded my first technology company at 22. My parents, of course, were present at my graduation. They smiled for photos and accepted congratulations for raising such a successful daughter. But there was always a distance in their eyes, as if they were looking at a project, not a person. Only my grandmother, Anna Pavlovna, really saw me. She lived in a beautiful old house filled with books, antiques, and the smell of cinnamon buns. I spent every summer with her, starting when I was 13. "You have your mother's eyes," she once told me when I was 15. It was the only mention from any of my family members that I had biological parents somewhere. "Who was she?" I asked. My grandmother stroked my hand. "Someone who loved you very much but couldn't leave you. Someday, when you are older, I will tell you everything." But this someday was constantly postponed. Grandma's promise remained unfulfilled. After I graduated, she said, When are you going to get a job? My father's law firm represented my main competitor in a patent dispute. When I pointed out the conflict of interest, he just shrugged. Family is one thing, business is another. Larissa became a surgeon, following in her father's footsteps, although he had traded medicine for corporate law before we were born. Their shared medical topics became another barrier that excluded me from family conversations. The denouement came 3 years ago during a large family dinner. Grandma Anna Pavlovna was there, more fragile than I remembered, but still as sharp-tongued. The conversation turned to the success of my company. We had just received major funding to develop an AI-based diagnostic tool. I always knew Vera would do something special, Grandma said proudly. Yeah, well, she was always determined to prove herself, Mother replied with that familiar dismissive tone. Prove herself, I echoed. You think that's all I've done all these years? Isn't it? Father asked, sipping his wine. Most adopted kids go through a phase of overachievement. It's pretty common. The casual confirmation of something they'd been denying for 15 years stunned me into speechlessness. Dad, Larissa looked shocked. What are you saying? Oh, she knows. Her mother waved her hand dismissively. She's known since she was 13, although I don't see why we need to discuss it over dinner. You've denied it my whole life, I said, my voice shaking. Every time I asked, you made me feel crazy. We thought it was better that way, my father replied, as if explaining something to a difficult client. Children need stability. I needed the truth, I countered. The truth is, my mother said with sudden sharpness, we gave you everything. A beautiful home, the best education, every advantage. Most adopted children would be grateful. Anna Pavlovna's hand fell heavily on the table. That's enough, Margarita. But it wasn't enough. 20 years of feeling like an outsider, of conditional love, of gaslighting, all of it came crashing down. You never wanted me, I said. You wanted an idea of me, a perfect daughter to show off at parties. I stood up, the napkin falling to the floor. I'm done trying to earn the love that was supposed to be given to me. I left that night and never looked back. I changed my phone number and moved to a new apartment. I only kept in touch with Anna Pavlovna. She died 6 months ago. Quiet in my sleep. I was on a business trip and missed the funeral. My parents didn't even bother to call me. I learned this from a letter from a lawyer who informed me that my grandmother had left me her house and most of her fortune. I never heard the truth about my biological parents from her lips, but fate had other plans for revealing family secrets. The day of the crash started like any other Tuesday. I was at our company headquarters, testing new software updates. It was that persistent Siberian rain that makes everything gray and slightly blurry. It's time for you to go home, Vera, my business partner Svetlana suggested around 8 in the evening. But I've never been good at leaving things unfinished. By the time I finally left, it was already past 10, and the rain had turned into a downpour. I remember thinking about calling a taxi, but my apartment was only 15 minutes away. What could happen in 15 minutes? There's a blind spot at the intersection of Pirogov and Ilyicha streets that locals know about. The drunk driver who hit me wasn't a local. I remember the headlights suddenly filling my car, impossibly bright, the sound of crumpling metal, the strange sensation of spinning. I was later told that my car had flipped twice before hitting the lamppost. The impact deployed the airbags, saving my life, but broke 3 ribs and my collarbone. My head hit the side window hard enough to cause a traumatic brain injury. I had fragments of memories of the ambulance, the flashing red lights, the paramedic repeating my name over and over, the oxygen mask on my face, and then darkness. When I next came to, I heard voices, distant, emotionless. I couldn't open my eyes or move, but I could hear. This state, consciousness without the ability to react, would later be explained as the result of brain trauma and the drug-induced coma I was put into to reduce swelling. Time has no meaning when you're floating in the dark. I heard snatches of the doctor's words. Significant trauma to the temporal duo. The next 24 hours will be critical. Then another younger voice. Her phone lists her mother as an emergency contact. We called, they are already on their way. I don't know how much time passed, minutes or hours, when I heard them arrive. Mr. and Mrs. Rostov, I am Dr. Orlova, the neurologist in charge of your daughter's case. What happened? My father's voice was tense and commanding, as always. Dr. Orlova explained about the accident, my injuries were artificial, and the uncertain prognosis. And what exactly are you doing for her? My mother asked, as if my head injury were just an annoying interruption to her schedule. We are currently monitoring her intracranial pressure and maintaining a coma to give her brain time to recover. Once she is stable, surgery will be required. Surgery? Father again. What kind of expenses are we talking about here? There was a pause. I imagined Dr. Orlova looking at them with the look doctors reserved for particularly heartless relatives. Information about your insurance would be helpful, she finally said. And we'll need your permission to perform the surgery. There's been a misunderstanding, the mother said, lowering her voice. Vera isn't really our daughter. Sorry, the doctor said, sounding confused. You're listed as her emergency contact. She was adopted, her father explained smoothly. Unofficially, the documents were never properly completed. Understandably, the doctor's voice grew noticeably colder. However, as her emergency contacts, you don't understand, the mother interrupted. She is not our concern, we don't owe her anything. I have experienced their emotional alienation all my life, but this was different. It was abandonment to death. Without permission to treat, the doctor began. Then don't treat her, the father simply said. Isn't there some kind of government fund for poor patients or something? Mr. Rostov, your daughter is in critical condition. No surgery. She is not our daughter, the mother insisted. Neither legally nor really. There was silence, then the rustling of papers. There is still the question of Anna Pavlovna Rostova's property, said a new voice, apparently a nurse's. The patient was notified as the primary heir. It's a family matter, my father said quickly. My mother was not in her right mind when she made that will. We were just about to challenge it. I see, the doctor said coldly. Well, without a family willing to give permission, we'll have to follow emergency protocol. Nurse Lena, please record this conversation and contact the hospital's legal department. We'll go, the mother announced. Please do not contact us again about this patient. Footsteps, the door opened and closed. They were gone. I tried to scream, to move, to give some sign that I heard them throwing me. But I was trapped in my broken body, a prisoner of my own mind. I've never seen anything like this, Nurse Lena said quietly. Rich people, the doctor muttered. Call the lawyers and then check her phone and other contacts. There must be someone who cares about this woman. Time passed. I was immersed in and out of the event. The pain came and went along with the medication. Different voices spoke around me, uttering medical terms I couldn't quite understand. But one voice became familiar, gentle, constant. I'll just change your IV, Verachka. You're holding up great. Nurse Lena became my lifesaver all around. She talked to me during her shifts, reported on my condition, told me about the weather outside, turned on music from her phone. New research shows that coma patients can hear us, she told someone. I won't leave her alone, not after what her parents did. 3 days later, through her one-sided conversations, I learned that the hospital had found Svetlana. My friend and business partner had rushed to the hospital, given permission for all procedures, and was now fighting my parents on several fronts. Your friend is something, Lena told me. Her lawyer is here every day, making sure you get everything you need. It looks like your parents are already targeting your grandmother's estate, claiming you're incompetent. I wanted to laugh at the irony. They left me for dead, and now they were trying to use my fortune to steal my inheritance. It was just like them. The operation took place on the 5th day. I remember being taken somewhere, bright lights overhead. And then nothing, until I woke up in the ward with a throbbing headache and Lena's voice. You did it, Verachka. The operation went perfectly. Dr. Orlova says the brain swelling is already subsiding. Tomorrow, they will begin to bring themselves out of the coma. True consciousness returned gradually. First, the ability to squeeze a hand in response to a request, then opening the eyes to a blinding light. Then the excruciating process of removing the breathing tube. Where? It was my first word, slurring through lips that felt foreign. In the regional hospital of Novosibirsk, Lena answered, appearing in my field of vision. You're okay. Everything will be okay. But I wasn't okay. Not really, because now I had to process what I'd heard. My parents hadn't just abandoned me for life. They literally left me to die. Recovery was excruciating. The physical pain was nothing compared to the psychological wound of knowing my parents were gone when I needed them most. This knowledge sat in my veins like poison. You are simply amazing, Svetlana said during her daily visits. She brought my laptop, handled company affairs, answered press inquiries about my accident. The doctors say you're recovering twice as fast as expected. Anger is a powerful motivator, I joked weakly. In my second week in the hospital, Svetlana finally told me about my grandmother. I didn't want to add to your stress, she explained. But you should know. Your grandmother's lawyer has been trying to contact you. Your parents are contesting the will. What? I struggled to sit up straight. On what grounds? They claim you are mentally incompetent due to your injuries. Svetlana's expression was grim. They filed the papers 3 days after your accident. They walked out of my room, leaving me to die, and went straight to a lawyer to steal my inheritance. I need to talk to her lawyer, I insisted. Sergei Ivanovich Volkov arrived the next morning. A distinguished man of about 60, with gray hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Mrs. Rostova, he greeted me formally. I am glad to see that you are on the mend. Your grandmother would be pleased. My parents are trying to steal her house, I said without preamble. He nodded. They filed for emergency guardianship, citing your health. I submitted a medical report from your doctors confirming your full capacity. The judge has temporarily frozen your assets until you appear in court. He took a thick envelope from his briefcase. Your grandmother asked me to give you this if anything happened to her before she could tell you everything herself. I believe that's true. I waited until evening to open the envelope. Inside was a letter written in my grandmother's elegant handwriting and several official documents. My dear Verochka, the letter began, if you are reading this, it means I did not keep my promise to tell you everything in person. Forgive the cowardice of an old woman. Some truths are harder to say out loud. All your life you have wondered about your biological parents. The truth is that your mother was my niece Katerina, and she was 18 when she got pregnant, young, scared, and unable to raise a child. Your biological father was her high school boyfriend who had gone away to school and wanted nothing to do with the child. I suggested an intra-family adoption. My son Andrei and his wife Margarita had been trying to have a child for a long time, but to no avail. This seemed like the perfect solution. You would stay with your biological family, and they would have the child they so desperately wanted. What I didn't know then was that Margarita was already pregnant with Larissa. She found out just a few weeks after they brought you home. Suddenly they had 2 Bobbies instead of 1. Over the years, I have seen how differently they treat you. I have spoken to Andrei about this many times. He has always promised to improve, to love you equally. But some people can't love what isn't of their own blood. The legal adoption was finalized, no matter what they tell you. You are legally their daughter with all the rights that comes with it. I have attached court documents to prove this. Your biological mother, Katerina, died in a car accident 5 years ago. She never married and had no other children. She often asked about you. At home, everything I leave you is rightfully yours, not only by my choice but by blood. You are my family in every sense of the word. You know that I have loved you beyond measure from the moment Katerina placed you in my arms. Always loving, Grandma Anna. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Then I studied the documents. My original birth certificate, with Katerina's name listed as mother. The adoption papers with my parents' signatures. It was all there. It was true. Evidence, proof that I was legally, morally, and by blood part of this family. That night I made 2 decisions. First, I would make a full recovery, no matter what it took. And second, I would hold my parents accountable for their actions. I threw myself into physical therapy with renewed zeal. Nothing will stop me. The living room of Svetlana's apartment became my war room. I created a timeline of events on the wall, linking my accident to my parents' legal maneuvers. My laptop became my command center as I gathered evidence and strategized. The first step was to strengthen my legal position. Sergei Ivanovich assured me that their claims of unofficial adoption were outright lies. But now they were trying a different approach. They said that as my parents, they should be my legal guardians while I recovered. After they abandoned me in the hospital, I didn't believe it. They say it was a misunderstanding, that they were in shock, the lawyer replied. We can request the hospital's CCTV footage. The next step was home security. I hired a security company to change the locks on my grandmother's house and install cameras. Then came the hardest part, the writing. I must have written 20 different drafts. The breakthrough came during a session with a therapist. What do you really want from them? She asked. I want them to acknowledge what they did, not just in the hospital, but for my entire life. What if they never do? The question hit me. Then I want to be free of the need for their recognition. That night, I wrote that letter, not out of anger, but out of clarity. I detailed decades of emotional neglect, the lies about my adoption and their ultimate betrayal. I included copies of legal documents and a link to hospital security footage. But I also included forgiveness, not for their sake, but for mine. I no longer need your approval, your acceptance, or your love, I wrote in the last paragraph. I am whole without you. On Saturday at 2:00 in the afternoon, my parents' Mercedes pulled up to the house. Svetlana and I watched what was happening through the laptop screen. I saw Anya and Larissa approach the door. The key doesn't fit, my father complained. As soon as she entered, my mother said, Andrei, check if the silver is still there. I want to make sure Vera hasn't cleaned the house yet. Don't be naive, she snapped at Larissa. Vera will never recover enough to lay claim to this inheritance. The judge will give us custody, and then everyone here will be ours. She's in physical therapy now, Larissa said. The doctors say she's making amazing progress. Well, her brain injury is another matter, my father interjected. They walked into the dining room, where my letter was waiting for them on the polished mahogany table. What is this? My father took the envelope. The mother snatched it and opened it. As she read, her face lost color. She silently handed the letter to the father. This is outrageous, he finally blurted out. Lies and manipulation. What does it say? Larissa snatched the letter from his hands. She began to read, her eyes widening. Mom, Dad, what is this? About you abandoning Vera in the hospital. It wasn't like that, her mother collapsed dramatically. We were in shock. It says here that you told them she wasn't your real daughter and you didn't owe her anything, Larissa's voice shook. That you left without giving permission for treatment. That's taken out of context, the father said. Larissa continued reading, her face growing paler. Here's a link to the CCTV footage. She pulled out her phone. For a few minutes, the dining room was silent, broken only by the soft sound of my parents' voices on her phone, clearly stating that I was not their daughter, that they owed me nothing. You left her to die, Larissa whispered as the video ended. Your own sister. She's not, the mother began, then stopped. Not what? Not your daughter, because according to these documents, she is absolutely yours. Larissa waved the adoption papers. I always knew you felt differently about her, she said slowly. I thought it was because she was so independent. I had no idea it was because you didn't consider her your real daughter. Of course we care, Verya, the mother said automatically. But we have to be practical in her condition. In her condition, which you worsened by abandoning her, Larissa interrupted. In her condition, which you are now trying to use to steal her inheritance. Father's face hardened. That's enough, Larissa. It doesn't concern you. It doesn't concern you. Vera is my sister. Stepsister, the mother corrected reflexively and immediately pressed her hand to her mouth. Larissa stared at her. and consciousness, it turned out, caused her physical pain. She gathered the letter and documents with trembling hands. "I can't be here. I can't be around you." She left her parents in stunned silence. The next day, Larissa wrote to me. "We met at a cafe." "I didn't know," she blurted out. "About the hospital, about them leaving you. I swear I didn't know." "I believe you. We talked for a long time," she cried. I was calm. "So what now?" she asked. "Now I move on. Building a life without them. And her voice was quiet. Is there room for me in this life?" "In small steps," I finally said. "Let's start small and see where it leads." As expected, my parents lost all the court cases. The hospital record was irrefutable evidence. The judge rejected their guardianship claim and confirmed my right to my grandmother's inheritance. Their last desperate step, a lawsuit for moral damages that my letter allegedly caused them, was dismissed with contempt. The court's decision made local news. Their carefully constructed social reputation was destroyed overnight. A month later, they left Novosibirsk for Sochi without saying goodbye to either daughter. Larissa moved in with me in the east wing of Grandma's house. At first, our cohabitation was awkward, but gradually we began to build a new relationship based on choice, not obligation. A year after the accident, I hosted a dinner party. Svetlana, Nurse Lena, lawyer Sergei Ivanovich, and Larissa were sitting at the table. My chosen family. "A toast," I said, raising my glass. "To family. Something that is not defined by blood or law, but by love, choice, and presence when it matters most." Later, when everyone had left, Larissa and I were sitting on the veranda. "How did you manage to do that?" she asked. "Make it stop hurting." I thought about the letter, the truth it held, and the freedom it had given me. "I stopped expecting them to be something they couldn't be," I finally said, and I began to build a life that didn't need their approval to be meaningful. True, it almost killed me, but in the end it also set me free.